Am I audible? Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another session of Anthro Express. Seminar will be given by Dhanush and Janvi on Anthropology and Earth Sciences. So let's give a round of applause. Let's go.
So good evening, everyone. Myself Dhanush and my teammate Jahnavi will be talking about anthropology and earth sciences as well as their relationship. So moving into the seminar, first of all, let's go through the definitions of each. As we all know, anthropology, it is a study of humans, human culture, societies and behaviors across time and space. It also examines the cultures of mankind and how we all came to be where we are. And at the same time, we have earth sciences. It is a study of physical and chemical processes that shape the earth. In simple terms, you can say the physical constitution of the earth and its atmosphere. Just by looking at these two terms, we might think that there is nothing common between them. At first glance, they might seem unrelated, but in fact, they actually have a significant overlap between these two fields. If you see, integrating these two disciplines allows us to examine the relationship between humans and their environments in an increasingly globalized and diverse world. So a better understanding of this relationship between anthropology and earth sciences, it gives a greater insight into how we can use our natural resources, how we can manage the land and water on one hand, and on the other hand, this relation also is essential for reconstructing the past using material remnants. As we all heard in the previous classes, material remnants refers to artifacts which can withstand the wear and tear of time. So this helps us learn about the human societies as well as how they impacted our planet. Moving further, between these two particular fields, there are several areas of intersection. Some of the important ones being human impacts on the environment, human evolution, as well as cultural heritage. Let's look at each of them separately. First one being the human impacts on the environment. This is more leaning towards the earth sciences. So in this, the earth scientists are more preferring to study how humans altered the landscape. So in the current scenario, we can see how deforestation or even soil erosion and climate change, how they are affected, how they are caused by humans. These have been happening a lot from the past, as well as they might significantly rise in the future. So it is very important to study this change that is happening, because change is always inevitable, and secondly, we are in the center of it. We human beings are in the center of this change. And at the same time, we can also see how human societies interact with their surroundings, how, as we talked before, how they use the natural resources to the best of their capacity, as well as how they manage their land and water, and how they adapt to climate changes and changing environmental conditions. So if we go back, if we see the diachronic study of human beings as a whole, how did we start? We started as nomadics or hunter-gatherers, and then slowly we started forming settlements. And as the settlements keep growing in size, what has happened was the stress or pressure on natural resources started to grow. So people wanted, the population grew in size, but the resources that were available was very less. So as we can see in our civilizations, the early civilizations like Indus Valley or Mesopotamia or even Egypt, where are they located? They are located near huge water bodies, right? We can see Indus Valley near Indus, Mesopotamia near Tigris and Euphrates, and Egyptian civilization near Nile. Because water is one of the important natural resource that was required for the progress of the civilization. So that is a way in which human got impacted by environment as well as human impacted the environment. Moving on to human evolution. First of all, we have evolution of humans and their relationship with other primates. Everyone knows primates, right? Chimpanzees, gorillas, monkeys. So anthropologists from long time ago, they are very interested in studying this origin of human beings as well as how we evolved. And from factual data, we can see that almost above 98% of our DNA is similar to especially chimpanzees and in recent studies bonobos as well. These belong to the order primates. So it is very important to study this relationship between both humans as well as primates. And moving on, we have environmental conditions that shaped early human societies. So further, as Janavi will talk about how geology and paleontology impacted anthropology. With the help of these particular disciplines, the climate and geography of the region and how it affected the evolution of man can also be studied. So if you see, throughout the course of human evolution, there were different divergent species, as we will be studying further, like Homo habilis, erectus, Neanderthalensis, Australopithecus afarensis, and etc. We can see how they are present almost all over the world in different places. So normally, for any for any species to survive, there are three different methods. So as I was talking, throughout the course of human evolution, different species of humans has appeared. This actually coincides with the environmental conditions of that period. So normally, if you see the history, there are the environmental conditions. There are frequent warming as well as cooling of the planet Earth. This can be correlated to the climatic fluctuations that happen during that period. And to survive this, the species usually have only three possibilities. First one is to go extinct. If they do not have the capacity to relocate to a different or move to a different place, the only option for them is to go extinct. And then there is something called movement. Depending upon the season and climate of that particular region, they keep moving back and forth to different places and getting used to that particular climate. And third one, which is much more broader, is versatility. So they adapt. So whenever they see climate changes or anything, so usually a bigger group, it breaks into smaller groups, and each group takes a different direction to different geographical locations, and each group adapt to that particular location. So humans have been doing this from ancient times, and that is a possible reason why we have different species. Okay. And then moving on to the third one, which is the cultural heritage. Both archaeologists and cultural anthropologists, they gave importance to the study of material culture of past societies, their buildings, tools, arts, and etc. And this is done with the help of earth scientists who help them reconstruct the environmental situations during this period and during the period where these societies are present, and help them understand how the environment affected the culture and how the culture itself and their way of living itself changed due to this environmental factors. There is this very important term known as cultural ecology, which was coined by Julian Stewart. It means it is a study of human adaptations to social as well as physical environments. We already talked about human adaptations, right? Biological and cultural adaptations, and how both are interlinked with each other. What is it known as? Anyone? It is called synergistic relationship, as we talked in previous classes. I will go through a few examples of cultural ecology. These are just examples of how environment affected the culture and the way of living of different tribal as well as other human beings. So first one is the Quechua people of Peru. Peru is in South America. These people usually live in the high, harsh altitudes of Andes mountains. So over the period of time, they got used to this very cold climate, and the communities, they grew smaller. So each group, they share their own land and labor as well. And they also domesticated these animals called as llamas. They have the capacity to survive in high altitudes. So that their livelihood itself changed due to the location in which they live in. And the second one, we have this adobe style housing of Native Americans. You might look at this. This looks very, the design itself looks very different from our normal housings. What they do is, this is to survive the hot and dry climate. So once the brick layer is done, they smear a lot of dirt on it. This is mainly to survive the heat that is outside. So what this does is, even the lack of windows, you won't see big windows like what we have right now. This is to keep the heat in or out depending upon the season. And they also have very flat roofs, not like the curved roofs or the tilted roofs. This is to store the rainfall. They have very little to no rainfall. To save that, they use flat roofing. For us, this might be like a structural or design function, but for them it is survival. They do it for their survival. And then we talked a lot about this, the sacredness of cow. Eating cow meat is seen as a terrible deed in India, right? Because cow itself is a very precious entity which gives us a lot of resources, mainly milk, and also has many other uses. So this sacredness of cow is like an adaptive measure that the Indians have taken to protect their very precious and renewable resource, to keep it safe. So that is also can be seen as a part of cultural ecology. And moving on to traditional ecological knowledge. So this is the knowledge and practices of the indigenous people that is mainly related to environment. So this particular knowledge, it is done through centuries of observation and experimentation. And with the help of anthropologists and earth scientists, we can study these traditional knowledge systems and also find efficient conservative strategies to protect them as well. Right. So after this, my teammate Janavi will take on the relationship between different disciplines of earth science with anthropology.
Now let's look into various disciplines of earth sciences. Earth sciences means it has specifically, if we take, we can study geology, geography, archaeology and paleontology. It has correlation with anthropology in many ways. Now we are looking into what this each discipline talks about. When we come to geology, basically we study the earth's physical structure, means what it is made of, like the crust, rocks present in the earth's surface. We'll see geology deals with it. And when we come to geography, we study about the landscape. Landscape means which is visible in our affinity, what all it consists of. And then climate, other spheres of earth like biosphere, atmosphere and hydrosphere. Archaeology means it studies the history through analysis of material remains, like building materials or fabrics which can withstand the time and which can withstand time from the past. Paleontology, here we use fossils and to examine the ancient life, and through using fossils we find out the timelines, and then we predict how the ancient people used to live. Now coming to the relationship of anthropology with geology, as we have already I have already told you, the study of rocks and the earth crust is what about the geology. Methodologies involved by geologists are digging, like excavations, dating and logical interpretations. Now from the history we have the records like written scripts or something like that to know what the history deals with. But for prehistoric time, we use material remains, the study of rocks which geologists provide us. Those things we use, and anthropologists take information from that. And we mostly use excavation method to find out the fossils or anything like that, and then carry out the study further. Geologists, as I stated, they provide the information about the rocks and all. So we find out the timeline at which these rocks were present, and and we interpolate with the fossils that we find at that time, and then the relation is established. Okay, this fossil or this man is from this type, this age of the society, like that. And then geologists also use stratigraphy, which means we know strata means layers. A famous geologist gave the law of stratification. His Nicolastino. He says the deepest strata means the deepest layer has a. If any fossil is found here in the deepest layers, means it is from the oldest civilization or oldest society. And the upper fossils which are found in the upper layers means the newest or recent, from the recent past. Pleistocene geology, it also deals with Pleistocene geology, which tells about the human migrations, like the anthropology evolved during the Pleistocene time, where Homo sapiens evolved and spread across the world. The concept of stratification, stratification, like we use in Varna system, like Brahmins in the top layer, then Kshatriyas, then Vaishyas and Shudras. We borrowed this concept of Varna system stratification from geology itself. And as we have discussed how geology contributes to anthropology, in the same way anthropology also contributes to geology in the following ways. Anthropologists give out the details about how human behaves, how human activities are carried out, like how human activities on earth geological process affect it, like deforestation, pollution, climate change, how it affects the earth structure and all, helping in understand the interplay between human beliefs and the natural world, how our belief system affects the natural world, like we may believe in something and that impacts our surroundings, like that. And then coming to relationship of anthropology with geography. Geography deals with study of Earth's crust, landscape, and various spheres. Coming to the relationship, geoclimate and its impact on humans. Like if we know, like we have somewhere studied about temperature inversion, how it is impacting on biodiversity or society, how it impacts, that we will be studying in geography. Anthro-climatic adaptation, how man is adapting to climate surrounding him, that we study using the geographical studies. Okay. And the common thing is both anthropologists and geologists study about the races across the world. And as we have already seen, Julian Stewart coined the term cultural anthropology. Cultural anthropology means how environment determines our aspects of culture. Like I would like to give an example here. Like as we all know, Islam originated around Saudi Arabia, Makkah, Medina. It's a desert place, and it's obvious that desert place means dust storms will be common. So to protect their skin from the dust, they used to cover themselves like what we now call as burqa. Especially women used to do that because they are more sensitive skin. Like that, we adopt the culture that they are using it now is adopted because to survive themselves from that environment. Like that, we adopt to our environment. And culture core is we have intimate relation with some elements of the culture, that is known as culture core, and we have indirect relationship with some other aspects of environment that we basically term it as superstructure. Now coming to relationship between anthropology and archaeology. Archaeologists provide primary source for studying the past societies. Like their studies help us in determining how past people used to live, what are their cultures, and we use them to compare how we are living, how we have evolved over time. In that analysis, we use archaeologistic studies. It provides information into cultural, social, economic aspects of human groups. Like if you take the example of burial pits, like if you excavate any burial pit, if any ornaments or anything is found in that burial pit, we can say that they're so and so wealthy, or they're this religion based people. Like that, we can determine the cultural aspects and social aspects of those from those excavations. If we look here, this is image from Italy. Archaeologists have found out recently that people in the Greco-ancient period, they used to like street food shop. That is an image from street food shop, which also depicts that people were interested in food like chicken and duck meat and all. archaeologists establish timelines using the dating techniques. Through these timelines, we establish who evolved first and how they further evolved, what are the changes, and now we extrapolate with the current man and current cultures. Now, anthropologists provides ethnographic data by doing field work. This helps archaeologists how contemporary culture is there, and they compare it with what past societies people used to live. And anthropological theories like functionalism, structuralism, these theories help how a man behavior was used to be and understand the man in a complete perspective. By studying material remains and cultural practices, both the subjects anthropology and archaeology give a holistic understanding of human behavior. Now coming to paleontology. Paleontology uses fossil evidences to trace the species of mankind, helps reconstruct past human behaviors. Like we have seen in yesterday's class, like how the brain size increased over time, and how the two lower jaw and upper jaw got smaller in size because we are not consuming cooked food. So like that, we are comparing the human behaviors using paleontologic studies. And paleontologists also use ethnographic studies given by archaeologists. In the same way as archaeologists, anthropologists study human in a holistic way, paleontology and anthropology also contribute each other to study the evolution in a broader perspective. The conclusion will be given by Dhanush.
This will just be a brief summary of what we already just discussed. Yeah. So anthropology and earth sciences are incomplete without each other. This is like a already given fact from what we just studied. Since this relationship is very important as well as multifaceted, right? So both are important to each other, like as they contribute something of importance to one another, as well as take something from the opposite field as well. With these two perspectives, a complete understanding can be achieved of the interaction between humans and environment. As we already saw through the evolution of man, how the climate influenced either it can be their migration or how they use their natural resources, or the land and water, how they manage them. So all of these are can be termed under the interaction between humans and environment. We also talked about civilizations. Those also can come under this particular interaction between humans and environment, how these civilizations are located in certain places where huge water bodies are located. And the development of interdisciplinary branches provided further scope for studying the connection between both these fields. So if you see, there are a few interdisciplinary fields like archaeoanthropology, which is the study of past humans and societies through material remnants or artifacts, as well as paleoanthropology, which is the study of especially human fossils to derive the origins and the developments of humans over the diachronic study of human beings. So this relationship not only helps us study the past and the present, but it helps us prepare for the future as well. So this is more leaning towards the earth sciences, how we can conserve our natural resources sustainably and how we can move forward. So even conservative biology, climate change research and sustainable development, these disciplines of earth sciences, the interdisciplines, can also help us prepare for the future, not only the past and present, but they can help us prepare for the future in advance as well. So with that, I would like to conclude the seminar.
That's quite comprehensive. Dhanush and Janami, you have done a good job. So after this, their seminar, certain keywords should be running in your mind very easily. One, paleoanthropology. So what is paleoanthropology? It's combination of both paleontology and anthropology. So paleontology is study of fossils, paleoanthropology is study of human fossils. This is what we are discussing in the entire chapter 1.6, isn't it? So this inspiration is drawn from one of the earth sciences called as paleontology. Simple, right? Then one more term which you should be very familiar after this session is ethnoarchaeology. Ethnoarchaeology we have in our syllabus, paper 2, chapter 1.2, I guess, chapter 1.2, 1.1. Ethnoarchaeology is combination of ethnography plus archaeology. So ethnography is part of our anthropology, right? And archaeology. So study of the material remains of the past and comparing them with the present societies. Let's say we go to the present society and see if there are any objects in the present society, which bear resemblances to the so-called material object which we have got from archaeological research. So people like Lewis Binford have come up with the idea of ethnoarchaeology and further developed it. So another very important concept, ethnoarchaeology, which we will be studying in paper 2, also draws its inspiration from the topic anthropology and earth sciences. Then we have one more concept, absolute and relative dating techniques. This also we will study in chapter 1.8. The first component of the chapter 1.8 is absolute and relative dating methods. That absolute and relative dating methods again draws inspiration from one more branch of earth science called as geology. Geology is about what? Rocks, layers of earth, all these things. So information about this we have drawn. So we got inspired from geology, and this geological studies is helping us in further understanding, different aspects related to our different material remains, which we will be studying in depth and detail in chapter 1.8. So if you carefully observe, most of the components of our syllabus especially draws their inspiration from earth sciences. Then there is one more brilliant term they have used, paleoclimatic studies. So paleoclimatic studies means it is study of the climate of the past. So when we study of the climate of the past, how can we study the climate of the past? Any idea? How can we study the climate of the past? Past is what which has already gone. Then how can we study the climate of the past? For this also there are certain techniques. Let's say in the chapter 1.8 I will be teaching you, there are certain techniques like observing the rings of a tree. If there is any tree bark, dendrochronology is a concept. So based on certain aspects we can come to a rough understanding of how the climate in the past was and how the climate of the past might have led to evolution of certain types of cultures. See, cultural ecology, which you guys have just studied, environment contributing to the development of certain cultures. So if I can come to a rough understanding of how the environment was in the past, I can also make some observation about how culture would have developed in the past. So in this manner, so the whole point I am trying to say, anthropology and earth sciences is the topic. The maturity of the topic will get enhanced as we go much deeper into different components of the syllabus, but it gives you a strong foundation or understanding of how to approach the later components of the syllabus. Okay, so 4 important ideas in the syllabus like absolute and relative dating techniques, paleoanthropology and ethnoarchaeology, and all these components. Paleoclimatic studies draw their inspiration from anthropology and earth sciences. Any doubts in this? You want to ask them or you want to ask me? Any doubts in this? Okay, Andrew, anything you want to add? Okay, we'll stop the session for today. Thank you.